welcome back to part 2 of this week's episode of Student of the Gun Radio. I am still Paul Markle. Thank you for joining me. And everybody, you don't have to do it right now, but if you want to thank Jared, you can thank him via Facebook or what have you. He does a fantastic job putting this show together every single week. He's the hardest working man in gun radio showbiz. Now, folks, if you're following us, if you've read the title to this segment, it's going to be self-explanatory, but we really need to get into it. And the title is Police Have No Special Duty to Protect You. And you're like, all right, Paul, stop. What are you talking about? Folks, I was a cop for 17 years before I gave it up and I became a full-time small arms and tactics instructor and your favorite host. But before I did that, I was a police officer. I went to the academy. I learned constitutional law. I learned state law. I learned ethics and so forth. And unfortunately, one thing that I did learn is you will never, as a police officer, young guys, they get into the academy and they're full of P&V and they're all pumped up and they're going to go like fight bad guys, fight crime, stop bank robbers every day and so forth. And what you discover is the chances of you actually being present when the crime is in the process of being committed are very, very slim. When you're a cop, you don't catch people generally in the middle of committing crimes. Someone calls you and you react. You go there. And, if it's a crime of violence, if it's a fight, if it's a stabbing, if it's a shooting, if it's a robbery, what have you, 9 times out of 10, by the time you get the call, figure out where you need to go and get to that place, it's over with. It's done. Now, the bad guy may have fled and you might have to go find him or he might be hiding somewhere. But the chances of you actually being, bam, involved right when it happens are pretty slim. And that's just the way the world is. We don't have enough people or money to put a police officer on every single street corner, to station one at your, in your driveway every single day. And it's been several episodes back, but it was an issue where a woman was out west here. And I think, why does this crazy stuff always happen in like Washington and Oregon and what have you? I believe it was Oregon. But the woman called 911 and they said, hey, there's no deputies available. Sorry. And she ended up getting beaten and raped in her home. And we brought up the fact that, the police are there to protect you as a whole, protect the community as a whole, not you as a specific individual. Well, what just has happened, we've got a ruling coming out of New York, out of actually a Manhattan court. And those of you who are hip and you know this, a couple of 2 years ago, and this is one of those things where we don't like to talk about it because the person who was the perpetrator was not he wasn't a white supremacist or he wasn't a Tea Party member. He was a member of a protected class. So we're not going to talk about that. We only talk about it when Caucasian conservatives commit crimes. And if we can catch a Caucasian conservative committing a crime, CNN will never let it die. But if that person doesn't fit the CNN narrative, we're just not going to talk about it. Well, there's a Brooklyn subway slasher named Maxim Gelman. And Maxim Gelman, 2 years ago, went on a slasher rage and ended up, I believe the story says he ended up stabbing to death 4 people and injuring 3 others. Well, one of the people that survived was a gentleman named Joseph Lozito. And Joseph Lozito was actually able to wrestle this guy to the ground to disarm him, but only after being stabbed viciously. And you say, well, okay, yay team, I'm glad that happened. I'm glad this guy finally stopped him, that they captured him, and he's in jail now. And they gave him like a 200-year sentence, so he'll probably be out in 2018. So, but you think, okay, well, end of the story, right? Well, not quite end of the story. It turns out, as we dig into that there were actually 2 New York City Transit Authority officers. Now, we know who, if you're familiar with New York or these big cities, the Transit Authority officers are the uniformed police officers that have guns and badges and all that good stuff that are in the subways, and they're supposed to, I guess, make sure that you pay your fare, that you pay your proper tax to ride on the subway or the trolley or whatever, and to rouse the homeless people and the bums off of the trains and what have you. Well, it turns out that when Mr. Lozito, when he was being stabbed, and there's just a brutal photograph of this guy, while he was being stabbed, apparently there were 2 transit authority officers on the other side of the glass, on the other side of a door. They were in the conductor's car, I believe it was, and they did not come to his aid because they thought the bad guy might have had a gun. Oh, here we go. It says 2 transit officers had locked themselves into the motor car only a few feet away from the attacker. And so, naturally, Mr. Lozito not happy about that, thinking, okay, here I am wrestling with this maniac with a knife, getting stabbed, and here's 2 civil servants, guys that are supposed to be, protect and serve. What do they put on? What do they paint on the side of the police cars? To protect and serve, right? Here's 2 guys that are supposed to be protecting and serving me, watching. What? Well, he and his attorney sued the city of New York NYPD specifically, and so forth. Well, here's what they came up with. A Manhattan Supreme Court Justice, Ms. Margaret Chan, sided with the city and enforced that the city had, in quotes, no special duty to intervene at the time. Let me say that again. According to the Manhattan Supreme Court Justice Margaret Chan, and we'll put this up for you guys so you can read the story for yourselves. We're not just making this stuff up. It's too unbelievable to make up. In her ruling, sided with the New York City Police Department and the City of New York, stating that the officers at the time had no special duty to intervene. Wow. Let that sink in a little bit. Let it sink in. You're like, oh, come on. Nah, that's not true. That can't be. There's no way 2 police officers would just stand by and watch somebody get stabbed and cut up. It's just not true. It is true. It's happening. And when a Supreme Court justice, when they make a ruling like that, what does it set, folks? We've talked about it before. You can Google it. It's called precedence. That's what courts go on. They go on precedence. Most judges will not make their own decisions. Most judges will fall back on previous case law or precedents. And they always will refer to the highest court for that. So here you've got now, what does Nanny Bloomberg like to tell people? Nanny Bloomberg up there in the People's Republic, the glorious People's Republic of New York. What does he like to tell you folks? What does he like to tell the peasants of New York? You don't need guns. Guns are nothing but trouble. You need to be disarmed. You need special permission to have a gun. And if you have a gun that we don't like, we're going to come to your house and we're going to take it from you. As a matter of fact, Jared, did the light bulb just come on in your head? Ding, 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 ding. What did we have in New York? The doctor? What happened to the doctor? The millionaire doctor. He got arrested, remember?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
The light bulb it's not it's about a 40 or 50 watt bulb over Jared's head right now. It's getting brighter.
Let me explain myself. I was over here working.
He was over here working. He was, all right, I'll give him a pass. He was diligently working. But on Student of the Gun Radio, we talked about our friend in New York, a man who used a gun to defend himself against a home invasion. And what did that man get for his troubles? He got arrested. That's right. He got arrested and charged with illegal possession of a handgun. So riddle me this, Batman. Riddle me this, Nanny Bloomberg. So you don't want people taking the law into their own hands, as you say. As he likes to say, people have no business taking the law into their own hands. That's what the police are there for. You need to call the police and hide under your bed and wait for them to show up. And if you do take the law into your own hands, we won't arrest the criminal. We'll arrest you. We'll charge you. That's right. I'm not making this up, folks. It actually has happened. But on one hand, Nanny Bloomberg, he wants to arrest people that defend themselves. But on the other hand, he's sticking up for the NYPD, and they're saying that they don't have a special duty to protect you as an individual. Now, I'm not sure, but that sounds like a little bit of an intellectual incongruity to me. Does it sound like that to you, Jared?
It does, and I like that phrase a lot.
So, and that's Paul Markle Incorporated TM, not to be used without express permission. We've got an intellectual incongruity there. We've got Nanny Bloomberg, who wants to disarm the citizens, tells you, you're a peasant, only police officers should be allowed to have guns. That's their job. It's their job to catch criminals. And then on the other hand, when they don't do their job, when they fail miserably to protect the citizenry, well, they puff up and they're like, hey, you can't hold us responsible. We have no special duty to protect you. So whose job exactly is it in the wonderful People's Republic of New York to protect the citizen? The citizen's not allowed to defend himself. If he does, he goes to jail. So what do we know? Here's what we know. If you live in the state of New York, and especially in the city of New York, the government considers you to be an expendable peasant. Let that sink in. It might hurt your feelings. You know what? Tango Sierra, Google it. If you live in the city of New York and you are a citizen who thinks that it's your responsibility to defend yourself or to protect yourself, you're wrong. You're wrong, because if you do, they're going to charge you. And if you complain about it, if you complain that some vermin stabbed you, beat you, killed your husband, your wife, your spouse, and you sue, they're going to say, too bad, we don't have a special duty to protect you. I don't care what's painted on the side of the car. Now, if you're a cop out there and you're getting pissed at me, back up. I wore the badge. I know the deal. Back up. Don't get mad at me. Police your own ranks. Before you get mad at the radio show host and want to write me letters about you don't know and I'm tired of your cop bashing, you might want to look at the NYPD Transit Authority officers who stood there and watched somebody get hacked up. Think about that for a second. Now, we were reminded, based on this story, that the Manhattan court is not the first court in the nation to quote the no special duty. As a matter of fact, to cut Ms. Margaret Chan, to cut her some slack, rather than making a decision and saying, yeah, we can't have our cops just standing around watching people be stabbed to death. We can't have that. Rather than make, a gutsy affirmative decision like that, she punted and she actually went with the Warren versus District of Columbia decision. Now, this was a case that went all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. And our good friend Jared, he's going to put that link up for you guys. He's going to put the link up for the Warren versus District of Columbia thing. You can read it yourself. But let me give you a brief synopsis of it. What happened was 3 women were sharing an apartment. They were living at home. And when 2 armed men broke into the building, they broke in and they began to commit just unspeakable acts of depravity against one of the women in the building. Well, 2 of the women escaped from the house. They called the police and they said, this is where we are. Come quickly. There's, men are in the house. We can hear our roommate screaming in the other room. Well, long story short, the police in the District of Columbia, they came, they looked around, knocked on the door. The women who called the police were hiding on the roof of the neighboring house. They're hiding there for fear of their lives. They knocked on the door. Nobody answered. They're like, whatever. They leave. Long story short, the women go back into the house. The bad men find them, and they spend another, let me refer back to the story. It was like a full day or more just brutalizing these women, just doing horrible, unspeakable things to them. So after it was all over, it went to court, and they tried to sue the District of Columbia and the District of Columbia Police Department, even after two calls were placed. You have to read the story. But essentially, several calls were placed. The police showed up, they drove by, didn't see any problem, drove away, and what have you. So they tried to sue them. Here's what the court held. The court held that, after it all came down, that they sided with the District of Columbia, and it is a 4-3 decision that Warren, this is the complainant, that Ms. Warren was not entitled to remedy at bar despite demonstrable abuse and ineptitude of the police department. And it said that the employees owed them no special duty. Do we understand that now? Is that sunk into you? And that's a Supreme Court decision, folks. That's a United States Supreme Court decision. So if you think that you call the police, everyone was out, during the Oregon case, folks were writing Facebook messages and posting things on blogs and on news blogs and all that about the woman who called 911. They told her there's no deputies available. This is the ask the bad guy to leave. This is when the dispatcher told the woman to ask her attacker to leave. And, well, he didn't. He broke in and he beat her and he raped her. So, but then, and people on these news blogs they're like, oh, she needs to sue. She's going to own that town or own that county, or she's going to have their job and so forth. And we pointed out, we're like, not going to happen, folks. That's not going to happen, because if and when that case does go to court, all the local judge is going to do is they're going to punt, and they're going to go to the Warren versus District of Columbia decision from the Supreme Court and say, look, we're sorry what happened to you. It's a tragedy. It makes us feel bad, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, local law enforcement, the government, and when we say police, people are like, you're bashing cops, man. No, I'm not. And get off that. And if that's all you get out of this, you're not paying attention. The police officers are members of the government. They work for the government, whether it's a sheriff's deputy, a local police officer, an FBI agent, what have you. They represent the government. Okay, that's it. That's who pays them, right? Who pays the government? You do. Isn't that there's another intellectual incongruity for you. You, as a taxpayer, fund the federal, state, and local governments. They take that money and pay police officers out of the money they took from you and all of your neighbors. Then they look at you and say, we have no special duty to protect you. Sorry, too bad. Does that make you feel good to be an American taxpayer? I know it makes me feel kind of warm and fuzzy inside knowing that all my tax dollars go to that effort. It's craziness. So let that sink in. Hopefully you live in free America. Hopefully you don't live in a slave state like New York or Colorado or Massachusetts or what have you, where they don't believe that the citizen should be allowed to protect themselves. Hopefully, when you're listening to me, you live in free America. And folks, when I tell you that you are welcome to, I know that this broadcast does go into occupied territory. I know it does go into the slave states. I don't think they figured out a way to block it yet, thanks to the magic of the internet. But when I tell you that you are welcome in free America, I'm not just being glib. I'm being serious. If you're living in a state that takes your tax money, uses that money to oppress you, I don't even, and you do it willingly, I don't even know what to say to you. I talked to a gentleman yesterday at a gun shop, and he was talking about, a gun in New York, and he was gonna buy a gun, and he was gonna ship it home because he was in the military, and but his home state was New York, and he was gonna purchase a shotgun, and he was gonna ship it to an FFL dealer in New York, and then when he got back from his tour of duty in the South, that he was would have the shotgun. And I said, well, I asked him, I said, you live in New York? And, yeah, I live in New York State. I said, on purpose? And he's like, yeah. I said, why? You're obviously a gun owner. You're a gun person. You believe in the Second Amendment. You believe in defending your family. What he was buying is he was buying a fighting shotgun. He was buying a shotgun that was purpose-built for personal defense. And I'm like, well, yeah, but you don't understand. Well, he goes, yeah, I know, but my family lives there, and I got to be by my family. And I said, well, load your family up and move to free America. I said, we would love to have you down here. We would love to have you, good guys. We need more good guys in free America. And he kind of like, whatever. Well, here's the story, folks. Don't live in a slave state and complain about it. Move, leave, get out of there. Do you have to stay there? And that's, slave states and high taxes go hand in hand. If you live in California, Be honest with yourself. What is your tax rate? If you are a working person, if you actually have a career and a job, you're being bled dry in California, and you know you are. Massachusetts, New York, you name it. You know you're being bled dry by the tax man. You absolutely know it. And that's why so many companies are moving to places like Florida, and people are moving to Texas because the tax rates are better. Not only do they respect your rights as a citizen, not a peasant or a slave, they don't tax you as much either. So, if you want to live in a slave state, rock on, but understand that you're doing so willingly. And there's a big difference between I can't and it would be inconvenient for me. Now, speaking of slave states, we haven't talked about this communist district in a while, but I think it's time to talk about our good friends up in Illinois. Now, this was brought up to me recently, and when the whole Illinois rigmarole was going around about, they're going to pass a concealed carry and so forth, and they stalled, and they drug their feet, and they cried, and oh my Lord, the anti-gun people just were fit to be tied up there. People are just going to be dying in the streets. It's going to be mass hysteria. It's all kinds of craziness. And someone said, well, Paul, what do you think about the new Illinois concealed carry permit? And I said, I don't think about it because I don't trust any government official inside the People's Republic of Illinois. It doesn't make me excited. I really don't care. And they're like, well, that's kind of jaded, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe. Do you trust the government officials in the state of Illinois? Do you trust Cook County? Do you trust Rahm Emanuel? If you're listening to the sound of my voice and you trust Rahm Emanuel, first of all, how did you get here? How did you end up on Student of the Gun Radio? And I was like, all right, well, I'll tell you what. I'll dig into it. I'll take a look at it. And it turns out that that crazy as it sounds, the Illinois has passed. It is by definition a shall issue concealed carry permit system. And what they've got right now, of course, I went into the Illinois State Highway Patrol is the one that's going to be administering this the shall issue permit system. They're the ones that are going to be doing the background checks. They're the ones who are doing the issuing and so forth. And the ISP has 90 days, it says, from the time that the paperwork has been filed and all the fees paid. They have 90 days to either issue or deny the permit unless the fingerprints were submitted on paper as opposed to digitally. And if they were submitted on paper, then the ISP is granted an additional 30 days. So they have up to, if you submitted your prints on paper, up to 4 months to either approve it and issue it to you or to deny it. Now, the state, there's a 16-hour state mandated training. There's a $150 fee. And here's the kicker is Illinois has zero or no reciprocity. So they're an island unto themselves. Like, for instance, Mississippi. Jared and I both have Mississippi permits. We can go all the way up north to Ohio, to the border of Ohio. We can go all the way out west. We can go all the way out to Arizona. We can go to Florida, Texas, and our permit's good. I believe Mississippi's recognized by, I think, 23 or 24 states. We have reciprocity with them, which is really, I mean, that's what you want, right? The state says, okay, we approve yours, you approve ours. Illinois is like, we don't care. No. The answer is no. We don't recognize any other state's concealed carry permit. Now, they will issue you an out-of-state fee or an out-of-state permit if you want to be an out-of-state person. And if there's no reciprocity, why would you want one? But whatever. Let's just say you really feel the need, to go to Illinois because. We have some friends who live in Illinois, and we still can't figure that out. We have some friends that claim to be gun people that live in Illinois, and on purpose. I can't figure that out. Now, here's the fly in the ointment. It's not good enough to get a concealed carry permit. It's not good enough to attend the training, to, submit to the background check, to do the fingerprints, to do the pictures. It's not good enough to do all that stuff. You still have to be in possession of a valid FOID card. That's right. For those of you who don't live in communist states, up there in Illinois, and this has been in place for a long, long time, they have this thing called the FOID card, the Firearms Owners Identification of Illinois. So in order to purchase ammunition in the state of Illinois, before you purchase ammunition, you have to present the clerk with a valid permission slip, essentially, from the state. You're like, oh, it's not a permission slip. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. If you go into a store and you want to buy ammo and he says, I can't sell you ammo because you don't have a card from the state with your name on it and a stamp, that is a permission slip from the government that says you're allowed to buy it. You have to have a valid FOID card in addition to everything else. Oh, and according to the ISP's website, they will begin offering applications to the citizens on January 5th of 2014. So it has, the law's on the books, and they're giving the ISP plenty of time to ramp up. We can't just start letting people carry guns because that's going to result in mass shootings and blood in the streets. So you've got that. Now, if you guys want to check out, if you're an Illinois person, and I don't know why you would be, but hey, maybe you are because, that's what you're all about, and your family lives there, and you don't understand, I can't leave. Okay, I got it. Let's talk about the FOID card. Let's talk about Cook County. Who wants to talk about Cook County? Jared? Jared's got his hand in the air.
I would love, I just don't care.
He just doesn't care.
Yeah, I would love to talk about Cook County.
All right. Well, everyone knows that Cook County is, if you're from Illinois, if you're from the Midwest, you know that Cook County is the cancer that has infected the entire state of Illinois with its political correctness, with its corruption, with its rampant democratization. How about that? You like that one?
We haven't brought up our new term yet.
What? Intellectual incongruity?
No.
Are we allowed to say it on the radio?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, you better hold off and talk to me on air. We don't want to offend because I hate to offend people.
Yeah,
it hurts my heart if I believe I've offended someone.
Well, we have a new term, and we may release it in the future, so pay attention. It'll give you something to look forward to.
It could be. Okay, Dateline. Chicago Sun-Times, July 25th, 2013. Title, Cook County Sheriff's teams taking guns if FOID card revoked. And you're like, whoa, what's going on here? Now, remember, we said in Illinois, you have to have a permission slip from the government. You have to seek permission from the government to purchase or own a firearm. Well, guess what happens when you seek permission, folks? If you have to seek permission, at some point in time, the person who originally gave you permission can rescind it. And can say, you know what? I changed my mind. I don't think you need to have a gun. I don't want to hear about your Second Amendment rights. I don't want to hear about the Constitution. I've just decided that you no longer can have one. What? You haven't been convicted? You're not in jail? You're just a person who's had their FOID card rescinded? What? Well, according to the story, we've got teams of Gestapo agents, and if you don't like it, suck it. Go to another radio show. We got teams of Gestapo agents going around Cook County seizing guns from thousands of people who have had their firearms owners' identification cards revoked by the state. Now, and it's like, well, reasonable. Jimmy and Joe Reasonable out there are like, well, I can kind of understand, we don't want certain people having guns. Folks, let's face reality. If you're a totalitarian regime, if you want to control the people that you don't want having guns is everyone except you. Get over yourself. If you're a gun owner, if you're a gun person, I'm a pro Second Amendment guy, and you come back with well, I can understand certain people not. You're part of that certain people, Sparky. Get with it. Get with the program. So, when you read the story here, You read this story, and it goes on to say that they go around knocking on people's doors saying, we have been informed that your FOID card has been revoked or it has expired or what have you. We are here to seize your guns. Now you say, well, hold on. If these people are criminals, if they're wanted, do I believe wanted criminals or convicted criminals should be in possession of guns? The answer is no. I think if your behavior is such that you should be in jail, that you should be incarcerated, if you cannot be trusted amongst the citizenry, I don't think you should be trusted with a firearm. That should go without saying. But according to the story, they're not going around with warrants to arrest felons and put them in jail. No. They're not really concerned with that. What they're concerned with is grabbing the guns. Here we are again, folks. We're back to the inanimate object must be removed from the community. And who in Cook County is doing it? Well, Cook County Sheriff's deputies. And the Cook County Sheriff, if you read the story, he thinks it's an awesome idea. He is more than happy to send his teams out to confiscate guns from people. No, I didn't say to arrest felons. No, I didn't say hunt down and track down criminals. The criminal that they're after is the inanimate object made of plastic and steel and aluminum and wood, the gun, because guns are bad and you shouldn't be allowed to have them. It's a bunch of crap, folks. And if you haven't woken up yet, wake up, folks. Wake up. You have jurisdictions in these United States that aren't concerned with criminals. They're not concerned with the behaviors and the actions of human beings and whether or not they should be held responsible for them. No, they're going to take the easy way out and go after the inanimate objects. And I'm sorry, but if it hurts your feelings, Tango Sierra, maybe you need to have your feelings hurt. And if you want me to talk about 22 Plinkin and all that jazz and you don't like it because Paul talks about too much politics, there's the door. Look left, look right. I'm sorry, but in the United States of America today, it's time to harden up. It's time to face facts. You want to play games? You want to have fun? Great. Fix the nation. Get this nation fixed, and then you can play all the games you want. But don't play your games and fiddle while Rome is burning. And that's exactly what a lot of gun owners are doing right now in the United States of America. We don't want to talk about it. I don't like politics. Citizenry requires effort. Citizenry requires your attention. You cannot tell me that you're a sovereign citizen of the United States, that you support the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, that you support the founding of this nation. Don't tell me all that and then say, I don't want to get involved in politics, or I don't like to talk about that, or I don't like to think about it. Citizenry requires effort. It requires your involvement. And if you don't want to get involved, you're part of the problem. And that's how we have things like the Cook County Gestapo going around beating on people's doors so that they can confiscate the inanimate objects. You know what? If you got raid teams and you've got a fistful of warrants and you're looking for drug dealers and felons and rapists and you want to hunt these turds down and you want to lock them up and put them in jail, I am behind you 100%. But don't tell me you're going to spend all your time and effort seeking out inanimate objects. It's bullcrap, and we need to knock it off. Now, concealed carry laws. We get a lot of questions at Student of the Gun. We get a lot of questions about concealed carry laws and, where can I carry? How can I carry? Am I allowed to carry here? Am I allowed to carry there? Brothers and sisters, I love you, but I ain't Google. Student of the Gun is not Google. If you say, I live in Provo, Utah, and dear Student of the Gun, I live in Provo, Utah. Am I allowed to carry in a restaurant that serves alcohol? Dude, I don't know. But what you need to know is if you're a responsible citizen, remember that whole thing about citizenship requires effort and participation? Get online. Now, the number one place you want to go is either you're going to go to the state police website or you're going to go to the state's attorney general's website. If you put in your favorite search engine, go to your favorite search engine, and put in, Utah concealed carry laws, and it'll come up with it. Now, there's a lot of organizations out there that have compiled the laws in all 50 states. The NRA has done it. U.S. Concealed Carry, I believe, has done it. And there are a lot of good, basically, not proving grounds, but websites. Help me out there, Jared. Jared's not helping me out. He's typing on his computer. But there's a lot of good websites out there that have compiled all the different laws of the state. And essentially what you're talking about is you're talking about reciprocity, whether you have it or whether you don't have it. And, what are the specific laws? Now, I can tell you this as a blanket, as kind of an in general, if the primary purpose of the establishment is the distribution of alcohol, that's how they primarily make their living. You don't want to go in there and conceal carry. You don't want to carry a gun in there. Why is that? Well, number one, generally it is illegal to go in there. But number two, if you're going in there to consume adult spirits in large quantities, I don't want you having a gun on you. If you do, you're silly. If you drink adult, beverages to the point where you cannot defend yourself or make clear decisions, you're screwing up, and you sure don't need to have a gun on you. Okay, government buildings. No, you can't go into the jail to visit your cousin Freddie with a concealed carry pistol on. It's not going to happen. No, you can't go through. And this cracks me up. They have to actually put signs up to this again. No concealed weapons in the security area of the airport. Really? It's a good thing they put that sign there, because I was thinking, dude, drive on. Apply a little bit of common sense to it, and you'll figure it out. And the thing is, if you're carrying concealed, like genuinely concealed, like concealed meaning nobody else can see it, and you go in and out of buildings and what have you, you should be fine. But what I'm also telling you is you need to know, you need to be, and you should have learned it in your concealed carry classes anyway, but if you didn't, go to the IRA's, or the NRA's ILA. Boy, I screw that up all the time. It's not the Irish Republican Army. It's the NRA, Institute for Legislative Action.org. Check it out. But you can check when it comes to concealed carry laws, check your local listings. Now, check your local listings in your Attorney General's website. The one person or the people you don't want to ask, and I know it's going to come off as cop bashing, is, don't ask cops. Don't ask cops about concealed carry, because guess what? Cops don't have concealed carry permits by and large. Most of them don't need them. Because why? Because they're cops. When I was a police officer, in the state of Ohio, when I became a police officer, there was no concealed carry legislation in the state. Now, they did have a special licensing for armed security and armed investigators. But and I asked a captain of a sheriff's department. I asked him about what it took to get an armed investigator's license. And he said, there is no such thing. It's against the law. No one can carry a gun in the state but a cop. I was like, okay. Now, I knew that there were, armed security licenses, and I knew that there were armed investigator licenses. But to this captain on this particular sheriff's department, and this is probably 20, 25 years ago, but in his mind, the only people in the state that were allowed to carry guns were sheriff's deputies. And that was that. And he did not care about anything else. And it's not really too much of a dig on him, because it didn't concern him, so he didn't care. So if you want to go ask the local guy on the street, hey, what do I need to do to get a concealed carry permit? He's probably going to say, well, I've been a cop since I've been 21 years old. I don't have a concealed carry permit. I have a badge. So I don't know. Look it up. And that's exactly what you need to do. Now, there are a lot of good police officers out there, and I feel bad. Tell you what, I wouldn't go back to that job for a nickel, right? I wouldn't, or a lot of nickels, because it really, right now in the United States, it is a thankless job. You get very little thanks from the citizenry. You get no thanks from the administration, and you're always almost assumed to be wrong until proven right. So it's not a job I would want to have. And there are a lot of good cops out there, and I feel for you guys. But at the same time, what I'm also going to say is, I know that there are cops out there that are clock punchers, and there are guys out there that are, basically, public's bureaucrats, and we don't need those guys. We don't need bureaucrats. We don't need the kind of guys who say, I can stop you whenever I want because I'm a cop, and that's because. No, that's not who we need in the United States of America. And as a citizen, you need to be active. You need to pay attention to what's going on in your city, your county, your state, what have you. Just saying, well, I don't like getting involved. Because let me tell you what, the people that want to control you, they're absolutely involved in making decisions for you. Now, so conceal carry, check your local listings. If you really want to, carry like a free man, I'm hoping that more and more states will go towards the Arizona model of constitutional carry and the New Hampshire model as well. I'm sorry, New Hampshire guys. Didn't mean to disrespect you up there. But that is really what essentially you're looking for. That is the goal. Because let's face it, when it says in the Mississippi State Constitution, it doesn't say you can own or carry a gun if we feel like letting you. No, it says to keep and bear arms. And just a little English lesson there. To keep means to possess. You got it in your house. You're allowed to have it. And to bear means to actually be able to be in possession or control of it. If you live in an area where the gun has to be locked up in a safe and the ammo has to be locked in a different safe and you have to have $100,000 worth of insurance on it and blah, 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 that's not bearing arms. That's just keeping it safe for someone else. Bearing arms is actually having possession of said arm, to have control over said arm. And if you can't control it because the government says you're not allowed to, if you can't bear it because you are a peasant and you require special permission from the commissar, then you're not living in a free state. You're living in a slave state. And I'm sorry if it offends you. I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings. But guess what? It's 2013. It's time to start hurting some feelings. It's time to start waking some people up. Now, Jared, before we let everyone out there in the Student of the Gun audience go, is there anything else we need to remind them of?
I would like to remind you guys to check out all of our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Google+. We're even on Pinterest, and all of those are at Student of the Gun. So you can find us on all those just by searching Student of the Gun. And also our Student of the Week. We've got a new procedure that we want to do, and when you ask a Student of the Week question, I would like you to end the question with a hashtag Student of the Week and hashtag Student of the Gun. I put instructions on the top of the Student of the Gun Facebook page, so you can go there and look and see exactly how it needs to be done. And I really appreciate that. Makes my job a little bit easier.
Well, thank you. And we want to help Jared out. The kid's working hard. He's working hard over there on the other end of the table. You can't see him, but trust me, he is working hard. So anything we can do to make his life a little bit easier and to expedite things, we want to do that. Now, don't forget to check out studentofthegun.com all the time, because what can you find at studentofthegun.com? Well, you can find the shows. You can find the videos. You can listen to rebroadcasts of the radio show if you're not listening to it there. You can read our weekly articles. There's a new article that goes up every single week. You can check out the Student of the Gun gear store. That's right. We're working hard providing you some of the most cost-effective training material and educational material that you can get your little mitts on. If you want a copy of the book, rock on. We've got copies of the book right now available. We have the DVD, Armed Living, Conceal Carry in an Uncertain World. You want to check that out. And if you just want to let all of your friends and neighbors and coworkers know that you are indeed a student of the gun, you can order an official Student of the Gun t-shirt, and we'd be happy to put it in a box and have our shipping department send it directly to you. Now, don't forget to sign up. In addition to all the other stuff, and we didn't mention it in the first hour, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it now. Keltec, our good friends at Keltec, they're giving away. We have partnered with them as kickoff our 4th season. That's right. We are in the 4th season now of Student of the Gun. We are on the Dish Network channel 266. That's Hunt Channel TV. And for you Dish Network subscribers, it'll be listed as Angel 2. But go to 266 Sunday nights at 7. That's 7 Eastern time. Or you can just set your DVR. You guys know you're all setting your DVRs. But in order to commemorate the new season, we've signed up a bunch of our existing sponsors, and Keltec is one of them. And we are going to be giving away a Keltec KSG-12 shotgun, and we're going to be choosing the winner on September 1st. And in order to be eligible, all you have to do is go to studentofthegun.com, and over on the right-hand side, there's a little sign-up for our electronic newsletter. It's a weekly newsletter where we just tell you what's going on, what specials we have, what's new on Student of the Gun this week. We don't spam you. We don't sell your address. But if you sign up for it, you click send, it comes into your inbox, and it says, hey, do you want to subscribe? Yes, no. And you click, yes, I want to subscribe. Bam. As long as you're an active subscriber to the newsletter, you are eligible for our giveaways. Now, we're giving away the KSG shotgun. We're giving away the Frog Lube Frog Tube. That's a complete weapons maintenance kit And at first, second, third, and fourth, or five, we have 5 runner-up prizes, and that's the Keltec CL43 flashlights, ridiculously bright, tough aluminum lights. We're going to be giving away 5 of those as runner-up prizes. So we got all kinds of good stuff for you guys. Stick with us, and remember, you are a beginner once, but you should be a student for life.